Leader of Opposition.
Madam Chair, what we tell you today is that when you sweep the dust under the rug and it becomes a pile and a bigger pile, that kid trips over it and that kid breaks its nose. Why is that a problem? And I'm going to explain that to you under why shielding is a problem, why would we deal with this, we have a better teaching system, and then why we deal with this because we have more allocation of resources and why attention is needed for these children. Before I get to that, some important points of rebuttal. This idea about the self-fulfilling prophecy, and that we need the self-fulfilling prophecy is going to be occurring. First of all, on downgrading expectations. How much more so do kids downgrade their expectations when they don't understand why it is I can't achieve things? Oh, I must be just stupid anyways, so I can't achieve anything regardless. I can't do my math homework, I can't do my English homework. No one has told me why I can't do it. So why should I ever care to achieve anything more? Your self-fulfilling prophecy occurs even more so, we would say, when you don't tell them, right? Yeah. Then we also have this thing about intellectual capacity, and you want to explain to us why. It's like, oh, the burden is too great, and these kids, shouldn't know. Michelle then also concedes that by saying that later on, if they find out, then we'll tell them it's all good and well, that we just shouldn't shield them, they just can't handle this. But you know what the problem is with shielding them with it? It's because when we don't tell them, we leave them to deal with it on their own. We leave them to deal with the fact, and then this is rubbish consension that they've said here, that kids can still concentrate and be able to sit and do what they need to. When you're on Ritalin, Madam Speaker, you sit like a vegetable and be told what to do. You can't participate, and you're told what to do. You physically can't react as well. Then they see that there is a problem there then. You aren't a normal person. Also, we see that many times these medications don't help these kids, and they can't sit and do their work. And Michelle saying that the mind is an ethereal thing is a rubbish, because it very much does exist when you can't sit and do your work. When you can't sit and physically concentrate on the teachers, and you get up and walk away when the teacher is talking to you, right? That's a problem. No thank you, ma'am. This third thing about the rigidity of the system, and I was getting into that in an argument about the teachers, are just going to be in any case not catering towards these students, right? It's important to understand that we have teachers who are allowed to allocate resources more effectively so when they know what the problem is. Because I haven't met a teacher that didn't care about their students. Most likely that's a teacher's mandate and job to accommodate its students, right? Unless you're in a school with 60 kids in it. That's pretty difficult regardless, right? But in general, the mandate of a teacher is to look after a child. And when they know more, they're able to do more. Here, I'm glad you think so, man. No thanks. It's important to also understand this issue of when there's also this perception about naming and shaming them, and they're going to be said that they have the syndrome. Who said that you have to stand up in the class and be like, hey guys, Tommy's got ADD, right? No one said that that has to happen. You go to the school, you explain to the schooling staff and the management regarding that. It's not a public naming and shaming at the Quad Announcement Centre. What you're explaining to them is you're showing the teachers that there is a problem. You're showing the school that there is a problem. No thanks. Why is shielding a problem that we're dealing with this issue of shielding? It's first of all on two fronts. If we want children to be able to move away from medication, because ADD is also very much a mental thing to be able to overcome, and as their concession is they outgrow it. And many kids also don't outgrow it at times, right? It's important to understand that when you shield them and we don't allow them to understand what the problem is, you don't allow them to move forward from the problem or to deal with it in a realistic manner. So when a student just gets up and isn't able to concentrate on what he or her is doing, that's a problem because kids tell them they are weird. We see that as already as Duan is giving you, the social perception already exists that kids are judged very much so. When they are judged, when they don't understand from their peers, from their schooling staff, and from a plethora of other actors in this, it becomes a massive problem when they don't know how to deal with it because no one has told them what it is. And that's a rubbish thing to say, that kids are just going to fall back on a crutch. I think if you're told that you aren't going to get a matric, that pretty much puts you down. You don't want to be not getting a matric. You want to be able to do something in society. I don't think that's the case. I think kids want to be able to achieve, but they struggle very much so to do so. And when you shield them from the problem, you don't help them deal with it. You don't help them to come to grips with it because it is a very difficult thing. Because this is the thing. Many times they're going to be faced with oppression. They're going to be very much faced with being shunned in their classrooms. That's why it's important that they have the foremost support of their parents. And they don't feel, as Dawn was saying, the kickback activity when they feel that they're being put down. Go, you on.
So all your detriments is just focus on the kids that don't react well to this medicine. Look at the large number of kids that do react well to this medicine and can concentrate and don't want to be faced with a stereotype.
So, regardless, on both fronts it fails. Because on the first people that don't react well, they're negatively affected by not being able to concentrate. The kids that even in case that do concentrate are under such a vegetable-like state that they can't in any case do the work that they need to do. So people in any case pick up that there is a problem regardless, right? And regardless, they see that these kids aren't dealing with social interactions enough. That kids think that they aren't good enough for this and don't outgrow it anyways. So you're going to be feeding the kid Ritalin until he's on matric. It's important to understand that that isn't a viable solution. And to move forward, we can't be shielding them from what's happening, but to explain to them why it is, and especially from their parents because they know best, because they've been raised by the kids. And it's also a trusting actor from their kids' perspective. They trust these individuals who raised them. They care for these individuals, so they value their opinion the most. And that's why it's important that parents do this, is because when parents feel that they have the ability to care for their kids and look after their kids, they're the important actor because their kids trust them to say, Mom and Dad, you know what is best for me. You should illustrate what is best in terms of telling me this, because I don't want to find out later. That's why I keep it constant, because you never explain it to me. Also, let's get on more pragmatic about the children and the school. No, thank you. It's important to say, how do we arm the school to be better, right? We arm the school to be better when we allow teachers to be able to focus more on the ability of the child. When we see that the child is struggling, we can see that if they know the reason why, teachers, they go then and focus on the resources and time and necessary skills and techniques to help those kids. If they see that those kids are very slow with their timetables or get up when they speak, they're not like, this child is stupid or undisciplined, and we send them to the principal's office. They sit down and understand, have extra lessons, extra time with that child, because this is what that child needs, extra time. They recommend occupational therapists when they pick up the problem. Is that when we devote more resources to these children, that's when we have a greater likelihood of having to deal with the problem, as opposed to opening government saying, maybe we'll wait it out and we'll see what happens, right? We don't want to wait it out and see what happens with opening government, because many times kids don't get over it. We have kids still up in matric and Willow Ridge that cater to high school kids that can't read or sit down long enough to read because they're being told that they can't do so, right? Or they're being told that they physically believe they don't have the capacity to do so. We also believe, it's on a third point, it's beneficial for the child when they have the belief to understand what they have and to attempt to overcome it. Because it's far easier to try and overcome something at least when you know what it is. Because when you're stabbing in the dark at something and you don't know what you're trying to deal with, and you don't know that you have a concentration problem, then how are you supposed to deal with it, right? It's important that when you know about this concentration problem, when you're aware of it, you can say, I am ADHD, I need to focus on how and ways and means to deal with it, as opposed to just stabbing in the dark randomly, and hopefully things work out in the end. Things aren't going to be just working out and we sweep it under the rug. Flip out the rug, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see that dust. Let's make a cleanup operation.